am Carrie Baughcum.
And I'm Mandi Tolen.
And this is Doodle and Chat with friends. And tonight we have Victor Hicks with us. And we are so crazy excited to meet Victor. I think this is one of our first friends that we've never met in person. And I have some funny stories to share with Victor. He doesn't know about them. But we'll wait till he gets on the episode for me to share some 6 degrees of Victor Hicks that he doesn't even know about.
Oh my gosh. There's always 6 degrees. We are always connected in ways that we didn't know we were connected. It's amazing.
I agree. And that's one of the reasons why I love Doodle and Chat with friends so much.
Absolutely. So it's a break for both of us now because Carrie had to work a week longer than I did, but that means I have to go back.
I know, I'm kind of enjoying that a little bit. At first you're I'm on break and you're working. I'm I have a whole week left and you're going back.
I'm going back on Monday.
Yeah.
I know. Really sad. It's been really nice to relax, and my kids got me a new game, so I've been playing Stardew Valley on the Nintendo Switch. So
nice.
I know.
Nice. And you and I have been planning for our January newsletter.
I am excited about that too. Doing some doodling today for it. So,
because we've been planning on amping up our newsletter. We've added the monthlies and tangles to our newsletter, as well as Pass the Sketchnote, which is now Fill the Sketchnote, has become part of our Doodle and Chat family. So we're excited to have that part of our monthly newsletter as well, right?
Yes. And I think part of my favorite part is going to be that little piece at the bottom, the yearbook section. I'm so excited.
Where people can go back and explore previous Doodle and Chats from the whole year, at which we're getting really close to our year anniversary, which we were just talking about.
I know. It's hard to believe it's been a year. And it's been a year of Doodle and Chat with friends.
Yes. And we've been plotting some fun plans for our anniversary.
Yes, we have.
So we encourage friends to look in the description of this episode. There's a link so you can subscribe to our newsletter so you never miss all the Doodle and Chat fun. Mandi and I only send out one newsletter a month, and it's jam-packed full of resources and tools so that you don't miss any Doodle and Chat with friends fun. But you also get resources for your classroom that are easy to use and already created, which I think is important for educators. You and I want it to be easy, right?
Yes, and I am excited. I know we're going to save it for a future episode, but I'm excited for the one-pager that is in the January episode, or the January newsletter.
For sure. And then we also encourage any of our friends that are joining us here to hit that subscribe button so that they always get notifications whenever we're doodling and chatting together, and they never miss an episode.
Exactly.
That's right. But Victor is waiting behind the scene. I know. I'm pretty sure he can hear us. We're going to welcome him on and give him an induction into Doodle and Chat, because I'm not sure he knows what he's getting into, but he's here, and it's too late now.
It is. He's here for us. I hope he's ready.
Welcome. Thank you for having me. I was trying to get back to my lighting. I feel like all of my light bulbs have been doing the craziest thing today. So I was on uncle duty before our time together today. So I was switching hats. But yes, I'm excited. I am excited. How are you guys doing this evening?
We're really good. Are you settled in? You made it through the traffic?
Atlanta, the biggest joke in Atlanta is, where I'm teaching is, rush hour goes from 6 o'clock in the morning until 4 o'clock the next morning. I don't think I've ever driven in Atlanta where if you have to go through the our downtown interchange, there's always traffic. Always.
So worse than Chicago traffic, huh?
Well, actually, I told somebody being from Chicago, I feel like there's pockets of time where you can go through the city and you're fine. Now, when we have our rush hour, it is bad. I don't want to minimize that at all. But Atlanta really literally has I think Chicago also has better laid out surface streets. So it's easier to get across Chicago so a lot of us native Chicagoans don't even bother with the expressways and the heavy times. But
exactly.
Atlanta, it's So we have a running joke. We always say we are full. We are absolutely full. So.
Oh my goodness. Well, Victor, I am going to welcome you tonight by reading just a little intro for you. So if the people watching us tonight don't know about you, then this will give them a little bit of information about you. So
awesome.
So Victor is an educator from Chicago, Illinois, which he was just talking about, but he's now living in Georgia. Victor is making a difference in the lives of young people. So to quote him, he is a proud product of two historically Black colleges and universities, Fisk University and Clark Atlanta University. His experiences at these illustrious institutions inspired him to make it a priority to include the cultural relevance of HBCUs in his pedagogy across grade levels and content areas. He's the founder of Coding with Culture, a program that exposes students to HBCUs and digital skills such as coding, word processing, digital design, and more. Victor created the program to bring his computer science lessons to more Black children and to show them a STEM-focused path to higher education and careers. In 2021, he was featured in Forbes magazine, where he shared about coding with culture and the professional development he can offer surrounding culturally responsive teaching. Coding with Culture was also chosen as the 2022-23 Abolitionist Teaching Network grant recipient. And Victor will be sharing ideas at ISTE 23, which I think is super exciting. So there's so much more to Victor, and I'm excited to doodle and chat and learn all about him tonight. So welcome.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for having me. I was like, that was an awesome intro. I'm like, I feel like I need to hire you, bring you guys home. Like, what are you talking about?
That was all you. That was all you.
Much. Thank you. Thank you so much. So I'm excited to hear. I was listening ahead of time. I'm excited to see what the Doodle Chat is all about.
Yeah, so we love to do our research. We definitely deep dive into our guests' lives as much as we can, even on the creeper. I guess you should call it, you know.
It is all good. I love it.
What we have with us, we call it the Bowl That Knows, Victor, and it has questions in here that are very specially written based on our research just about you. So there's very special questions in here just for you. And then there are some random questions in here that are just for fun. So whatever the bowl gives us, it is a wise bowl of knowledge. And
I love it already.
We will just see what kind of fun it is. And so in a second, Mandi and I are going to turn our cameras on. And when you are chatting with us, we are going to doodle all about what you're telling us. That's where the doodle comes from with the chat. And then anybody who's joining us here tonight with us live, we have Monica and Pam with us right now, or joining us later. We encourage them to put pencil to paper or pen to paper and doodle along with us, or doodle however your words and your story connects with everybody. And then we love our friends to share out their doodle and chats on Twitter using hashtag Doodle and Chat, so we can see all the fun that we get to have because of you, Victor.
Thank you. Listen, now that is a cool concept. It was interesting. I'm like trying not to, because I'm just going to go with the flow, see how it is. I think that's pretty cool. I'm glad that you guys. That's a pretty cool format. I like that.
Thank you. I mean, of course, we encourage you to draw along with us, but it's not a requirement. We are really here to learn all about you and just to shine a light on all the amazing things that you do.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I got my Sharpies ready. I said, just in case. I'll be
nice. That is Carrie's tool of choice as well. I've got my Apple Pencil and my iPad ready to go. So Carrie likes her Sharpies though, and she wields the Sharpie well.
Thank you, Mandi.
Awesome.
All right. And then we also have with us, as always, our very loyal, who's giving me directions, producer Annabeth, aka my daughter. Hello. And the OG better, who's going to be reading questions. So if you hear a question being read from off camera and you're like, what is that? That is Annabeth, Victor. It's the ghost.
She's our producer.
Yes.
Okay, awesome.
So she's just pulled a question from the bowl. Annabeth doesn't waste time. She doesn't like all the like.
She keeps us on track, which is good because sometimes we need that.
We do.
So we are starting off with a very random question.
All right, here we go.
What are you hilariously bad at?
Ooh.
Oh, okay. So I have this. It's so funny that you asked that question. So I actually was just telling someone today, I am an ultimate Beyonce fan. And I think one of the reasons that I love Beyonce so much is because her voice, she has the ability to make you feel like when you're singing along with her, that you sound like her. So I'm full into, so my background is, of course, in performing arts before computer science. And so I love to sing, but I'm really, really terrible at it. And Beyonce does not mince on the runs and all the flash, which those of us who have not been as blessed should not attempt. But I would say I am hilariously bad at singing Beyonce songs because I know every word, I know every ad lib, every backup singer part. But should I be singing it for the good of the general public? Probably not. So I would say yes. If I had to choose one thing I was hilariously bad at, it would be singing my favorite Beyonce songs.
I love it.
Now I feel like you need to sing us a Beyonce song.
Now, that one, like I said, you might have to catch Coach. Now, my students are masters, and now you may be able to convince one of them because sometimes I'll catch myself singing in the classroom, and they love coming in before the bell. And they're like, Coach Hicks, you always. I said, well, first of all, this is my 5 minutes without you all being in my face, so I personally should have this time of myself. But if you're going to be in my space, can we at least not criticize my? But yes, we'll see. I won't make any promises.
Well, I was trying to think, I'm like, okay, so Victor answered that question. So like, what would I answer if somebody asked me? And I kind of feel like this is every teacher's, except for the singing thing. Because I do think that I'm a great singer also, but my children have a very different opinion of my singing. And I feel like the same thing as you. I have my favorite singers. And when I sing to them, it's like, I'm just hitting that note. But it's my kids tell me different. I also feel like the car makes you sound better.
Or the shower.
Or the shower.
Yes, the shower. See, the shower is, I feel like the shower is always kind of that, right? Because you're like, oh, okay, well, and I think everybody, but it's like when you're out of the shower, like I'll be cooking and then or like my phone will ring if I'm playing it from my playlist and then the music cuts off and I'm still singing. I was like, oh no. But that was always like, yeah, even when I was teaching primary, like preschool, everything in preschool was singing. And I'm like, I always felt so judged by my 3 and 4-year-olds because they'd be looking kind of like, I don't think that was it, Coach Hicks. I don't think.
So I used to sing to my kids when they were little. I'd be rocking them in their chair and I would sing to them. And I have a daughter, my oldest daughter would sing opera when she was in high school. And so I have kids that can sing. And I too sometimes think that I sing better than I do. So I feel you. But my son would reach up and cover my mouth.
Oh no.
When I was singing to him. He'd just like pop his hand up like, no, I'm gonna need you to stop now.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, but I feel like little kids, the childhood, the filter, it's definitely, it is not there at the younger age. I feel like kids are super duper sweet from like about 7 or 8, and then it turns back off again in middle school. And see, that's always the conundrum of teaching specials, because you see, like our school now, I have my girls are all the way from K through 8, so I get it all. I get my, my sweet babies that are like, oh, Coach Hicks, are you okay? I drew this picture for you. And then it's like, you get that age where they're like, are you doing that again? Are you? I was like, I really consider myself. So one of the kids asked, he said, well, Coach, we want you to do this, one of the TikTok dances. So I prided myself. My background is in dance. I'm like, okay, this is the one moment I know it. I can rock this out, right, and be cool. It went from me being in the TikTok, like, well, Coach Hicks, you teach, so maybe you should just hold the camera. I was like, okay. Thank you very much. Like, that went left quickly, but okay, I will gladly hold it. Like, if it goes viral, we'll still put you in there. I was like, oh, thanks.
Oh, that is funny.
Yes. So, but that is, I think the singing, it would probably be the one area of the performing arts I was not blessed with. That wasn't a strong point.
I would also say, and I think maybe it's just me, or maybe it's other educators, I really do think that I'm genuinely funny. My students, I teach middle schoolers, they're a hard group. My teaching assistants will be sitting in the back of the room and they'll be giggling under their breath, and it's like hardcore silence. But I'm like,
it's brutal. I mean, and they don't even give like, and like that's why I said going, because like I feel like fourth graders are like, they have that empathy, right? So they're like, okay, we'll be polite. We know what he said really wasn't funny, but we don't want to leave him up there to bomb. But like middle school, it's like, wow.
Or like when you're talking about the mood for middle schoolers, you could just say hi to a middle schooler and you get like
hardcore eye rolls. Yeah.
There was a school, and I'm pretty sure it was TikTok, but it was a group of middle school teachers, and they did a TikTok of how their kids act. So it was they had one teacher when she came in, and you know how they all, of course, every middle school boy has to touch the door with the top. I laughed at that video so much, and then they had two girls that were doing like, and you're always capping whoever the teacher was, and they started fixing each other's hair, and I was like, the sad part is every middle school, the comments were hilarious because the teachers are like, I'm from and my kids, I mean, it was the one comment I feel like it was like a middle school teacher, you know.
Completely true.
The thing of it is, I told someone, I said, I would not trade that group though. I love middle school. I mean, I love my high school kids when I was teaching high school, but it's something about middle school that, and all their middle schoolness, you know, they are a fun group to teach, though.
They are a unique group for sure. For sure.
So you're talking about dancing. I have a group of juniors right now that I also had as freshmen. And at the end of their freshman year, we did like a dance party type situation. And if I had answered that question for Carrie, it would be dancing. I know I can't dance. I will still do it, but I cannot dance. And so we were talking about the other day. They're like, "Do you remember when we did that?" And I said, "Yeah." Do you remember how bad you were at that? Wow. I do actually remember. They're like, "But we love that you got up and danced with us anyway, even though you were so bad."
See, right? See, now we're going back through it goes in ebbs and flows. So
Yes.
I feel like junior, they're a little less brutal, but they'll still kind of give it to you, you know.
Remember how bad you were? I'm like, I do. Yeah, thank you.
But thank you, right? I love it.
Oh my gosh, my cheeks hurt from smiling. It's awesome. Also, I love how this Doodle and Chat starting. Beyonce and a microphone. Boom. Yep. Victor Hicks.
Yep. Now, I would say that is probably also if I had to put Coach Hicks into a doodle, that would be Beyonce would definitely be, if you were to ask any kid of mine, probably in the last, she's been around about 14, 15 years now out solo, they would probably say, yeah. Like I've got quite a few Beyonce themed teacher appreciation cards, gifts, you know, so that is actually pretty on brand.
Perfect.
All right, I think Annabeth's got another question. For the Bull's got another question, not Annabeth.
I mean, I do.
You do. Yes, you do.
I'm the reader of the question. The Bull is not. I'm special. I'm important.
She's sassy tonight.
She is sassy tonight. I love it.
Your hometown is Chicago, and you currently live in Georgia. What plate of food would be the perfect representation of you?
Ooh, okay. Two good ones. Okay, Beyonce and food, the first two. So if I had to say, wow, okay, definitely wings, but specifically lemon pepper wings from Atlanta.
Yeah,
I would not get lemon pepper wings because Atlanta is a lemon pepper city. What I would not do, and I think that is the ultimate test of who's a true Chicagoan, is it would never include deep dish pizza. So the secret, the way that you can tell a true Chicagoan is real Chicagoans eat thin crust pizza. So it would definitely be thin crust pizza. We put our toppings under the cheese. We don't now. So that's how we stuffed crust pizza. Deep dish pizza is really like a tourist. So like when my cousins come in from California or from my cousins I have here in Georgia, they come in town to Chicago. So definitely thin crust pizza. It would have to include rice. I eat rice with everything, everything, and eggs. sunny side up eggs. Very weird. Now, would I put all those things together? Probably not. But those are very, like, those would be the things. Oh, wait a minute. I forgot cucumbers. Definitely cucumbers with Italian dressing. So as a kid, I was the weirdest snacker in the world. I didn't like sweets, but I would eat. My mother would get me cucumbers and cut them up, and I would eat those with Italian dressing like they were chips. And to this day, as a grown man, I still have like insanely amount of Kraft Italian dressing in my refrigerator. So let's see what else. Oh, gumbo. Because our family never, like, I didn't start eating like traditional Thanksgiving food until I would say probably adulthood. Like, my aunt was famous for her, is famous for her gumbo. So Thanksgiving to this, like, I will go to the ends of the earth for a good bowl of gumbo. So that is a very diverse plate. Now, again, I don't know how safe that would be to eat. That might have to be like a Coach Hicks breakfast through dinner palette, but I would say those would be my top, like, that have been pretty consistent, like, throughout. I mean, there have been things that I've liked in between. And then Harold's. So Harold's is a Chicago chicken legend. Now, they're not buffalo wings. They're more like fried chicken, but they have this secret sauce. They call it mild. Well, it's called mild sauce, but like, it's like a Chicago legend. And nobody really quite knows what it is. It's kind of like a barbecue ketchup mix, but people in Chicago will wait in line for hours for this Harold's chicken. So DC has like the closest to it, but like it's so successful now. There's the restaurant, the chain Harold's from Chicago, actually has moved down to Georgia, and I would say my brother and I that are from there probably keep them in business because we eat there and insanely. But I mean, that is like a Chicago staple. Like, anybody that's really, really from the city has and probably loves Harold's, unless they just don't eat, chicken. But I would say that would be my plate.
Yeah. So no, I love it. I'm from the suburbs of Chicago, and when you said thin crust, I felt not hurt, because I always feel like deep dish is the way to go. And then I'm like, well, Victor needs to come back to Chicago, and we're going to need to get into a car, and he's going to need to take me on a trip. So like, where's your go-to thin crust then in Chicago?
Well, it's interesting because I get it from, I love, Geno's East, which is famous for its deep dish. I love their thin crust. There's a small, I think it's but it's pretty, Italian Fiesta, I think, is in the South, just in the South side of the city. I don't think they have a lot. But were you Western suburbs or Southern suburbs?
Northwest suburbs.
Northwest. Okay, so I'll say Aurelio's was always a favorite. So I taught.
Oh, I love Aurelio's. Yeah.
I taught in Flossmoor for many years, and so when I was coaching the step team there. They the kids actually from Homewood, from one of the high schools out that way. We were we performed at a basketball game and we went to Aurelio's, and that was the first time I had it. I was hooked. Now it's interesting. They actually opened one here. So Nancy's opened in Georgia. They have a chain here. Their deep dish is okay. It just kind of gives, their thin crust. But I would say probably Geno's East. Giordano's. I love Giordano's pizza. I'm just not a big fan of the stuffed crust. I keep saying stuffed crust. That's Pizza Hut. It's thin, deep dish. You see, I haven't been home. It's been too long. But now, in contrast, in Atlanta, finding good pizza has been such a struggle. We are very changed with pizza. So we're Papa John's, we are Pizza Hut, which, again, being from Chicago, we don't really go too much for the fast foody, pizza. But yeah, Nancy's is the closest thing you'll get here.
Yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm. Fun to know. That's good to know. And then I'm gonna have to. What was the name of the wings place again? Harold's. And it's interesting because their logo, which is actually kind of sick, but it's a chef chasing a chicken with an axe, and like it's Chicago. Yeah, and it's like everyone is that is how the authentic, like, the real Harold's, because that's the logo, and everybody's like, oh, you have to find the one. And I'm like, well, it's actually a little unappetizing, but
I guess when your food is that good, you can't, you really can't go wrong. But yes, you have to check out Harold's. I highly recommend.
That's quite the plate. I'm telling you what. Quite the plate.
I mean, there's at least some vegetables on there.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say, I got the salad, I got the cucumber, and I could be convinced to make that a salad if we just need to.
You want me to read the next one? Okay. Mandi, are we ready for the next question?
Yeah, you're
All right.
good.
All right.
Just finishing my meat cleaver.
Historically Black colleges and universities are rooted in tradition. What school tradition are you most proud of or is your favorite?
Oh, okay. That is a good one. I would have to say, if I had to choose one tradition from my HBCU that I was most proud of, it would probably be, let me see. I would probably say we had a dorm step show. So one of the things that is really, really, well, one of the things that's kind of like a tradition at the HBCUs is there's usually a lot of camaraderie built around your freshman dorm. So a lot of our dorms are, they tend to separate which is good, of course, because you're fresh out of high school. You don't necessarily need to be in the same living quarters as people that are 21. But one of the things that kind of really starts to build a lot of that family feeling and atmosphere to HBCUs is that it comes in from the beginning. So like a lot of the dorms have, colors and their own little chants and songs and things. But CAU hosted a residence or dorm step show. So, of course, I was, enthralled with that entire HBCU culture, like even before going. So I, jumped at the chance to be able to be on this step team. But it's amazing that even my friends now, if you guys, follow me on social media, we'll get, I'll post a memory or picture from the step show. And it's like, you would swear it was 20 years ago. I mean, you have people like, I lived in such and such hall and we should have won this. And I'm like, y'all, this was 1997. We need to be. But it's just really amazing to see how, and I think it's a lot of those events like that, those traditions that really do make it so special, because I mean, I think, college has some things that are across the board, roommates and certain things that are kind of, but it was the amount of pride in that, even when we were living it, to see how alumni would come back and be excited about those things, it really made you feel like a sense of belonging, without making it, corny or, because like a lot of the orientation stuff, we were kind of like, oh, okay, this is not, but that was something that really, really built such school spirit and such a love for your, dorm first, which then kind of expanded into, really allowed you to open up and get everything you were supposed to get from that, the HBCU experience as a whole. So yeah, I would definitely say hands down the step show, which is what makes Coach Hicks, because once I started teaching, the first thing I did was start a step team, because that was such an important part of, my college experience. And so even how the first integration of HBCUs into the classroom or into my, educational sphere, I'll say, was through step team. And it was just such a natural part of, because I loved it so much. And then so I, high school, elementary school, it's always just kind of been a part of what I was. So even as I didn't coach, the coach of Coach Hicks never left. So it definitely was a huge impact, on me as a person and definitely as an educator. So
I love that. I was telling Carrie before we started, I am older than you are, so my experiences are a little bit older. But I was not from a diverse community at all. I was from a very small community. And so when I went to college, I loved the diversity that I was around. And we had a step team and some of my friends were on it. And it was amazing. I loved to watch them. It was just like you always left feeling inspired and also kind of excited. Like it always just made you
it does.
It was so cool. I loved it. That is
so awesome. If you guys get a chance, check out a group. They have some stuff on YouTube. It's a group called Step Africa. So they're the only professional step group. But you all, when I tell you these young people, I mean, and they travel all over the world. They actually just got back from Slovenia, I believe it is. But they do, the thing I love is that whenever they go perform, you know, I mean, they've performed across continents, is that they always do a lesson. So usually they'll try to get with a school or so like, I mean, if to see these kids from like, you know, Eastern Europe that are learning about HBCUs and stepping through this group. But I mean, when I tell you, like I said, I've been coaching / stepping for now 20 years. And every time I see them, it's like, wow, okay, you know. But yeah, and a lot of their stuff is on YouTube. So if you get a chance, check them out. They are really, really good. That might be something you want to share with your students, because they do always present them from a very historical perspective too. So it's a good way to introduce kids to a lot of that culture as well. But yeah.
Very cool. Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. And we'll add that to the show notes. We'll find their channel and make sure we add it to the show notes for people to see. I love that. I think, you know, it's just that like tradition filled with like these intense moments, like you're brand new to school, but we're welcoming you in this really powerful way to get you excited to be a part of something. It's just that kind of a moment in a college student's life is just so powerful, you know, and then it creates a deep memory that you obviously never forget, right?
Never.
And I think as educators, whenever we can weave those things together, it's like magic, right? Moments and traditions and memories. They're just really powerful things for our students.
I agree 110%. And I think it's, you know, when you have a good understanding of that, you know, I think it really, you know, as of course, I know, you know, preaching to the choir, but, you know, a lot of times as educators, it's one of the things I love is because it always instilled in me the importance of remembering to set that time out, to set, you know, and although it may not be as big or as, you know, as performance based as a step show, you know, but to really take that time as, you know, meet your students, especially in the beginning of the school year, to really establish that culture. Because you see, like you said, you know, something that just, you know, isn't necessarily a random event, but that there was actually time to craft these moments to, you know, and I think especially when you talk about young adults, a lot of times it's harder because, you know, they're like, okay, well, I'm just trying to, you know, I'm out of my parents' house. I'm trying to do my own thing, you know, but again, that intentionality of creating culture and then how that, you know, set the stage for so many things. So I think as an educator, that also helped even outside of the step realm, to be able to say, okay, well, Hicks, you know, even though, you know, we want to get to all these cool computer science things, like be intentional about creating those experiences where the kids can connect first, because then that way, you know, a lot of that, you know, cheerleading we have to do throughout the year, you know, it really becomes a little bit easier because those, like you said, those kids, when they feel, and then, you know, so they start to take care of one another. And then a lot of the things that, you know, just kind of make classrooms work. A lot of those unspoken things, I think, you know, kind of fall into place. So yeah, that attention to establishing culture and community is huge.
Agreed. 100%.
This one's so much fun to draw.
So much fun. Does the bowl have another question for us, Annabeth?
It does.
All right. I'm sure Victor's gotten lots of time to draw.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's funny. I'm really doing. I got some cool bubble letters. I've gotten through HB of HBCU, so I'm.
We'll have them hold over again.
What's your idea of a great day?
Oh.
Now that's an interesting one. And this is going to sound really, because I think most teachers, you know, as much as we love our vacations, I would say a good day does include my kids. It does. And I was telling somebody this weekend, we were talking, and I said, you know, I really, as much as I love my breaks, I definitely realized that my kids are a part of just kind of the things that, as much as they can tire me out at times, you know, that interaction with them and just, you know, checking in kind of, it's good. You know, I think it's like chicken, what they call chicken noodle soup for the soul. In that respect. Now, I don't know if I necessarily want them all day, or I don't necessarily want to be responsible for teaching any content, but I think, you know, I really do enjoy teaching. And I think that's from, you know, that interaction with my kids. Definitely reading. I love, getting into a good book. Nonfiction has become really interesting. I feel like I'm turning into my uncles because I love just reading about having these random facts in my, I'm trying to think what else. I'm not a big TV watcher, so I don't think like, I do love a good nap. So I probably would have some of my peach tranquility tea in reading in hopes that would into a nice little nap. But like I said, I don't, like after a while, TV, I feel like makes me restless. Like I'm always like, unless it's a good, like a documentary kind of thing, but even then it's still very short spurts. Like I can't binge watch a whole Netflix series. Like after a while, I'm all over the place. So I still have to rewatch some of the episodes anyway. I probably would, I've learned to find, I think me turning to my grandma is I love cooking things in the pressure. Like I just love having like soup going, especially in like fall and winter. I love fall, winter not so much. But I love like, soups and that kind of thing. So probably just a really chill day. Like I said, maybe go to work for an hour. That's about it.
Just enough to see the kids, just to get that little fill of your kids, and then you want to go home and have your tea and your pillow and your soup.
Read my book and well, see, the soup I can start in the morning. So I said an hour would be good. So I don't want to leave the pressure cooker cooking in the house too long by itself. And then just, and the beautiful part is my commute to work is like 7 minutes. So I could just shoot on over, say hello to my children, give them a cool coding prompt, and then go back home. And of course, in ideal, they would have the ideal sub. So of course, there would be no problems. They would, love their sub as much as they love me. So there will be all the great things. Oh, and I probably would watch Beyonce. I would. Let me take that back. I would watch. Because her Homecoming, the Coachella performance, to me still blows me away. That was phenomenal. So I might watch that.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. Actually, I could probably cut out work. I could substitute my students for my nieces and nephews. I feel like they would be hurt.
He's like, now that I rethink this, maybe.
Well, see, then I wouldn't have to drive. So see, they could actually be here already because they're actually related to me. So that way I could get all, and then I could send them back with their parents. I told them, I said, it's so funny. I always tell them, I said, I absolutely love uncle status. It is the greatest thing in the world because you can do all the fun things with your, like my nephew today, it was like basketball game, and then I got in my car and there was no one. I didn't have to feed anybody. I didn't have to drive anybody home. It's like all the great, life moments and memories that you get to make. And then, so I told somebody, I was like, I'm not rushing out of that one. That's the best setup ever. You can send the Christmas gifts like the drum sets and that's always usually the biggest, and they're like, oh, okay, Uncle Victor, you got to get the whole drum set with the acoustics and the speaker. And I was like, yes, of course. And the 15 sound effects. And nope, they can't bring it over Uncle Victor's house because I'm in Georgia and you can't put it on a plane. So, yeah, I feel like I'm winning on that one, y'all. I'm
hoping grandkids are going to be the same type of situation. I don't have any yet, but I'm hoping that it's the same thing. You can enjoy them for a little bit. You can send them right on home.
Oh yeah, my grandmother and grandfather. Now my mother actually has 4 siblings. So there's 5 of them total. So like my grandmother notoriously ran a tight ship at home. I mean, and it's funny because when I hear my uncles and aunts, my mom reminisce, I'm like, are we talking about the same person? Because as a grandmother, I mean, she was the one like, I came home and I was like, hey, I want to be Hulk Hogan for Halloween. I mean, and I had the blonde wig and she painted blonde facial hair. That's still one. I was like, that's a picture I definitely hide in the archives because I'm like, it is hilarious. But I mean, she was that grandma, like everything that me and my, cousins could possibly want, and I think that's the magic of grandparents, and why they are so important because they are. I mean, there was nothing, my mother's always like, who is this lady? Like, we went from only like never having Kool-Aid except for on like Thanksgiving and Christmas, and my grandmother become like the Kool-Aid lady. So, you know, but again, I think, but that's why, you know, the village is very, very necessary. You know, the uncles get to do the cool stuff, you know, but, you know, mom and dad do have to hold down the fort, you know. But I think that's what I say, which is why people have such special memories with aunts and cousins and, you know, grandparents. I was very, very blessed to be able to grow up with, you know, that village. And then, yeah, but again, you know, it also instilled the importance of making sure I was around for, you know, my nieces and nephews so that they had that, you know. And it's interesting how we play a different role in each of their lives, you know. So if they're into sports, how we feed into that. And, you know, if they're into I have one nephew who's all things coding, you know, so he's pretty convinced that Uncle Victor is his person, you know. And he's like, so whenever his siblings are like, he's like, no, I have to talk to Uncle Victor, you know, we have to talk about coding, and it's always a very serious, you know, but I love it. I do.
That's awesome. I love that. I love that. And I never thought about family that way, about how our family gives us certain moments in our lives and memories, and how important it is for us to continue that, you know, that impact on them. I love that perspective so much.
It is. I mean, and, you know, like I said, it's those, I mean, I love the fact, because I think the fact is so many of those memories are kind of unspoken. You say, you know, we don't really think like that. You know, aunts and uncles are so, you know, standard in, you know, in the family picture. I think, you know, a lot of times you have to stop, and, you know, as cliche as it sounds, like smell the roses, like this particular relationship or this person playing into, you know, I mean, it's interesting because it's usually the memories that, you know, cost the least or took the least amount of planning, or, you know, it was, I mean, of course, I love the mini Disney, you know, my aunts took me to Disney World. Don't get me wrong. That was awesome. But, you know, I can also think of times where it was just, you know, my uncles did this and it was the most minute, you know, thing, but it's because that person made that time to be there or to, you know, yep.
Agreed. I love that. All right. Does the bowl have more for us? Because it's doing pretty good so far.
Yeah.
Yeah, the bowl's on fire.
I love the bowl. The bowl is doing great. I'm like
Your mother was a teacher and your dad was in computer science. How have they impacted your 20 plus years as an educator and the educator you are today?
Oh, okay. Wow, that's okay. So interestingly enough, my dad's story is hilarious. So I went to Clark Atlanta. Well, actually, Fisk, I got off the hook because Fisk didn't have computer science as a major. So my dad was one of the first African-American, or one of the few, you know, that was working for IBM in the 70s. I think the 70s and 80s for the most part.
And a Northwestern graduate, right?
Yep, Northwestern. Yep, absolutely. And he went to, you know, never really pressured me to follow in his footsteps. But when I went to Clark, there was, once he found out there was a computer science major, and he's like, well, I think you at least need to take a class, you know, check it out. You know, it's a good thing. But, you know, coding wasn't, computer science then was very much a computer science kid thing. So I said, well, okay, you know, I'll go, because of course I wanted to be able to stay in college. So I said, I'll go ahead and take intro to computer science. But mistakenly, I registered for the intro to computer science for computer science majors. So of course, in traditional Coach Hicks fashion, I was about 10 minutes late to class, you know. But by the time I got there, my professor was about 2 whiteboards in binary code, which is the ones and the zeros. And I was like, I remember literally walking into the classroom and turning back around and going, well, I guess I'm going back to Chicago because I'm not staying in that class. So I was so adverse. Like, computer science was an absolute no for me. I was like, I want to do the exact opposite of this. I want to be teaching performing arts. I want to be coaching this and have, you know, putting on the school plays. And yeah, and here we are. So that he definitely gets a lot of laughs out of the fact that Coding with Culture ended up after, of all things. But I would say my mom definitely, man, I mean, just in being there, in seeing the educator that she was, or, you know, for her students, and how, you know, one of the things I tell people that, you know, she was the teacher at the Catholic school that I went to for a good part of my elementary years. And, you know, those were the days before there were pullouts and before there were, really, I mean, especially within the Catholic school realm, you know, modification, like that just wasn't a thing. You know, you had your teacher, and if there were, 40 kids that were in third grade, and you taught. But the thing of it was that as I saw her, go through the different, trends or kind of the changes in education, one of the things that was very core to her, and it was advice she gave me even as I started, was, you take care of your kids, all of these, and that was pre-testing, between, during No Child Left Behind, like all these different phases. The one thing that I could say about her, if I had to put it into, a phrase, would be, she had her kids. My mom taught, if she had 38th graders, then, 38th graders would come out knowing how to do math. If she had, she had single gender. She had, where they decided that it was best, that was the thing to split, the boys and the girls. And she had, I would say about 36, 8th grade boys, but there was no difference in the amount of love or, time or standard of, I think that was the thing that made her most impactful, was that she had the perfect balance of, you're going to have all the support and all of the, push and, but I'm also holding you accountable, because I do know that, because, and again, that bar was set differently for every kid, but there was never a point where, I think, regardless of ability level, regardless of where the kid ever felt like they weren't still being held to a high standard for them, and I think that was the key, but it was just amazing to me. And I think that was, people say, well, you've done so many things, you taught in these different schools, how have you been able to do it, with so many different amounts of research? And I think one thing that stuck with me was that you are in charge, you have these kids, and wherever, if you have a classroom that has, $10,000 worth of, all of the best equipment, or, if you're in a school where, you have two kids sharing a Chromebook, I think that doesn't change what that classroom needs to be for those kids. Because I think, and my mom always also used to tell me, you never know, a kid is making a decision in every moment that you're standing in front of them. Should I keep going? Is this, am I able to do? And you never know how that one interaction that you may have with them could totally change that trajectory. And again, like we were just talking, about how you were mentioning, Carrie, about the, the uncles and the aunts, and like how we don't tend to think like that, but sometimes it's helpful to remind ourselves of those things, because I remember, sometimes going in, and it was that, it wasn't the big moments where my teachers were giving me an inspirational speech. Those moments mattered too, but I can definitely remember times where it was like, I was teetering between, hey, am I able to do this? And it was not necessarily what the teacher said, but how she said it, or, how she got me through, or he got me through, a time that was challenging. And, I'm pretty sure if you ask them right now about it, because it was in passing, it was just a part of who they were as an educator. And it definitely was a part of who my mom was, as an educator. Even to this day, like I'll tell her sometimes, like, she's like, and I was online. I'm like, okay, first of all, Mom, you've been retired for 10 years. So I don't know why you're on any, but it's just, but I think the thing about that is it spoke to the fact that she was such an educator, you know what I'm saying? And it's still a part of who she is. And it's, and I think that just seeing that passion for it, and that that love, it just feels natural for me. So a lot of the things that, teachers like, why this was, like even during the pandemic, which I think was a struggle, which for all of us, was really, as cliche as it sounds, flipping that mindset, because I was like, okay, well, if I'm feeling this way and I'm feeling, unbalanced and kind of unsure, I'm like, what are these kids who, you're that consistent, I'm saying, you're that for them. And again, even not always necessarily showing up and being, not being authentic, because I think even letting them see sometimes, like, hey, y'all, we're all in this together. You know, I'm as worn out sitting in front of this Zoom screen as you are, but you know, Mr. Hicks is hoping that you're being, and I feel like that was just the way my mom taught, and it just, you know, radiated from her. So it definitely, you know, it made it almost second nature for me. Because a lot of the things I think people are always like, oh, you're doing such a great, and I'm like, it just really kind of like there was, you know, it really wasn't a big planned thing. It just, you know, so she definitely has been and still is, a very huge, and all my aunts are teachers too. So it's just, it was, it was in the, yeah. My uncle married, my mom's brother married a teacher. Both my mom's sisters are teachers. I have great aunt, great aunt that taught. So yeah, we're a family of teachers.
You are. That's awesome. I love that. I love that.
We got time for one more.
One or two. We'll see how it goes. Come on, Bull.
I'm sorry. I know I can be long-winded. That's another Hicks trait.
No. I do not mean that. You are amazing, and I love hearing everything. We love hearing everything.
You're doing exactly what we hope you would do.
Okay. Just let you know. Again, that's my middle school kid. Like Coach Hicks, you've been saying the same thing for 10 minutes.
No, we love it. We love every second of it for sure.
This is all about you. This is where you get to tell us everything about you.
Thank you. I love this. I'm having a great time. This is the format is awesome. I love it.
Thank you. We're so happy that you jumped in and took a risk with us. We love it too. Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right, ready?
Yeah. Once you are a hashtag Coach Hicks kid, you are always my kid. Why is this forever approach to working with kids so important to you?
Does the bowl know?
Okay, see, y'all about to have me get emotional. Y'all tell me we're gonna have Coach Hicks get emotional here, and I can't even have my eyes looking all puffy on this camera. I mean, you know, I think that it is such an extreme charge, because again, I think when you talk about young people, and when you really look at how beautiful an experience that, you know, growing up is, you know, and how, you know, that when you talk about that village and you talk about, you know, the amount of trust and, you know, vulnerability that comes into allowing someone to teach you. You know, you think about an adult, you know, almost I can think about sometimes you have to ask for directions, or because technically learning means there's something that you don't know. You know, I think that's one of the hardest things for us to be able to do, you know. So I think when you look at, you know, someone who, and I think a lot of it comes from the building of the community. So the nephew that I went to see tonight, I mean, I've taught him, I was his computer science teacher in 4th and 5th grade, you know, but I mean, his mom and his dad have become like family. So it really, and again, it's almost like it's not really intentional. Like, I feel like it just, because I remembered how important it was for kids to feel safe, you know what I'm saying? And to feel that someone is, before I can teach you anything, you know, you have to know that I genuinely care about you. And so I think in being in that intentionality, you build these bonds, you know, and like I said, you know, knowing that this kid needs, you know, they may only need Coach Hicks to show up and do the, you know, teach you what I need to know. And then I'm, you know, I'm good from there. I love you, but I'm, you know, I'm out. But I think in really being committed to making sure that all of my kids feel that in some respect, you know what I'm saying, whether it be in the specials classroom, and I think even more so, I should say, coming out of the traditional classroom and moving into, because you see so many kids, you know, but I always felt like that responsibility is still back on me, because, you know, I don't want there to be the one quiet kid that, you know, is not going to come and say anything or won't really put themselves out there, that's feeling like every time they come to class, they're not being seen. So I think from being intentional about that, you know, kids remember that. I mean, I remember my teachers who did the same for me, and why it was so important to do that in my classroom situation. So I think they become like your kids, you know, and they know that Coach Hicks will, you know, show up. And I mean, I've my first group now, my first elementary group of kids graduated college, you know, and then to see one of my captains, you know, the team that I coach, and the first person that she called, you know, she graduated with a degree in education. And so, you know, to hear someone that you taught in 3rd and 4th grade that said, I became a teacher because of the impact you made. I mean, it's just, it's awesome. I mean, I tell you, it makes it so worth all of the, craziness that we have to deal with sometimes. And because you realize that, that's something that, goes beyond testing. It goes beyond data. It goes beyond, grades on a piece of paper. Like, to be able to be a blessing, or to be have that type of positive impact on anyone's life, but for someone to carry that for, 10 years later on, and to think, okay, my cheerleading coach, this wasn't even a kid I taught in the classroom, but because she had that experience, and they're always my babies. My first high school group there. And I told them, I said, the one thing I love about them is, okay, I came out of school at 21 and I taught high school first. So I don't feel as old, but now that my elementary babies are grown people, but I mean, it really feels like, because I only have one blood sibling. So a lot of my nieces and nephews that you guys see, on social media are adopted, but they don't, it's because they were such a big part of my life. I won't even just say the teacher being, impactful on them, because each of them made, my life different and grew me in ways that, I don't think would happen unless that type of relationship was built. So, I try to get rid of them. So like I said, as much as I complain, by the middle of next week, I'll be like, okay, I wonder what they're doing. Is everybody okay? But, so I think they always hold a place in my heart. It's something about them that you can't forget. And they love when they see me in public, they'll be like, okay, well, let me see. He probably won't remember my name. And I'm like, John Brown. Yep. Now you might have to give me a little bit of context of where, you were in the journey, but I feel like, I mean, they just all, it amazes me sometimes. I'm like, how is my brain not run out of, I see, like, now in my school, I teach there's 400 girls, at our school, but right now, if I were to see one of them, out, if I taught them, absolutely, and I just think, like, after 20 years, the fact that just keeps happening, and I can't remember where I left my car keys, but, they are always Coach Hicks's babies, always.
Or sometimes where I left my car in the parking lot.
Listen, that's why I ended up talking. When I left that basketball, I went out, came in one gym door and went out the other, and it was like, wait a minute. Let me go.
Yep.
I definitely am. Retracing my steps is my love language. So.
I get it.
Well, I couldn't just stop filling up my paper with hearts, and I know that sounds like kind of cliche and cheesy, but in all that I learned about you, with the importance of coding, this really technical and revolutionary approach to coding with Black students, and that's their future, there is this deep root that you have in culture and in the love of where you came from. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
Oh, no, I love them. Those are beautiful. Oh my goodness, I love. All right, so you all post these so I can have this. I can keep these. These are so amazing.
Thank you. But also, like, how you share with your traditions about the historically Black colleges and universities and how important that is. There's just so much love wrapped up in everything that you do, and I don't know if that sounds cheesy or not, but I feel like coding with culture and Victor Hicks and everything that he does, from the I'm going to try not to get teary. The Coach Hicks kids, it's just so deeply much in love, and so many lessons that we can learn as educators. I know that there's boundaries that we're being encouraged to put on educators, drawing our lines for how much we work, and those are all important. But I also feel like that's who we are, right? We love our students. And we have.
Oh my goodness, you are speaking my mind. I was just telling somebody that I said, one of the things that breaks my heart so much is that we are taking so much of the love out of teaching. And I feel like, as cruel as our world gets, I won't say it's cruel, because it's not everybody. It isn't. And I think we also have to be cognizant of that. But I think as our world is, and I think that's the caveat of social media, is that sometimes we're exposed to too much. It's some stuff we're just not supposed to know, right?
Yeah,
because
sure.
it's too much for our brains to. But one of the things that, and again, I think, yes, work-life balance is important, but I think that teaching is an act of service. It's not. It simply is not. Just like you can't compare a nun with someone who's working at Kroger, right? And again, it's not any shade to nuns. It's no shade to people that work at Kroger, but it's two very different skill sets. And I feel like when you talk about working with young people, and, especially like I said, because these babies are so exposed to everything and they do have these phones and it's too much for their little selves to even deal with. We, as their frontline people, cannot pull back. You understand what I'm saying? And I think that is where we're starting to see this disconnect, why we're seeing our babies struggle emotionally, why we're seeing them struggle, because we've forgotten that we have to love them first. And again, it's not any shade to anyone that does not want to do that. But it's like, these kids, it's too important that they do have that. Mm-hmm. So if your thing is like, hey, I want to just go and do, and I'm not saying you have to, because again, teacher burnout, I think, is very, very real. And I don't want to be, dismissive of that. But if you're priding yourself on, and even that's sometimes, even with teacher social media, with teacher Twitter, I have to kind of pull back, because I'm like, I can't talk about teaching and talk about how we should not be doing this, or we should only be worried about, the instruction, then go home, and da 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 da. And I'm like, well, how does that day-to-day look for those kids? Like, yes, you might be perfectly okay, but again, we're in the business of children. And it's like, is it a calling for everybody? Absolutely not. It absolutely is not. And I tell people every day, if I did not love what I did, I would probably be absolutely miserable, because you do have to be able to show up with sometimes that, okay, this is what's going on. I got a whole lot happening, but these kids need me to show up in this space. Because like we were saying early in our conversation, if my bad day could be one kid's decision to not keep going. Mm-hmm. And I think when you put it in that kind of perspective, it really helps you check some of the, like, all right, or if I know that's the day where I'm really going, then that might be the day that, yes, I do need to go ahead and take that mental health day, because those babies don't need me to show up like that. There's enough cruelty in the world, and so sometimes you just gotta, but again, I think it's just such a part of who I am. I don't even, really think about it anymore. So I'm so happy that impression came out, because I think, that is always, leading with love has always been so important. And that's why I say, it does come through with coding with culture. It comes through with the stepping, because if you don't have that foundation, if you don't have that culture and that sense that there's somebody who, off the cuff believes that you are amazing and everything about you is amazing, then, we're cutting off our nose to spite our face. Agreed.
So
I love the heart screen, not corny at all. That is, you have captured Coach Hicks, and as I said, I love these doodles. These are amazing.
Awesome. I do have one more request for you. The bowl did not give us this question. Mandi is going to hate me for it. Besides education, stepping is a passion for you. Can you teach us 3 basic step moves so we can take Doodle Chat out and say goodbye to everybody for tonight?
Okay, I can teach you an easy one. Okay, so it's actually a 3-count step. So we'll just do arms since we're seated.
Perfect.
Okay, so first we call this a I guess a dove. Well, it comes from our fraternity. We call it like a dove. Okay. So if you clap first, okay, we're gonna drop our hands. So I'll do it so you can see. They'll come down, but you want them to touch here. So 1, 2. But you want to make that, and then you're gonna come and hit the back of your hands up on 3. Okay, and then we'll make it even 4.
1, cheerleading days. I can do that.
Well, see, that's what I say. Like the commonality between cheer and step were, enough where, and which is why even like a lot of our cheerleading having the background in step, we were able to incorporate a little bit of, pizzazz. So our routines would have a little bit of extra,
Nice.
Yes. Now you all have learned to count. And
we have. And if we wanted to get really deep, I mean, stepping and dancing is no different than doodling and chatting. We're bringing a story to life visually, right?
And coding too.
That's right. Oh yes, and coding. Whoa, that
See? The 6 degrees.
The coding has timing and counts and
right. See, when you were going, you said 6 degrees. I said, okay, let me start. I got my the wheels turning in my head. I was like, okay, yes, let me make some connection.
So I know there's a new coding cohort or a workshop coming up in January. Is it still open for registration?
So yes, so we take kids on a rolling basis. We do virtual and in person. So if they're in Georgia, we do have a partnership with the Makerspace here, which has been really, really awesome. But then so we take kids on we try to keep them within just so that like as they go through the process, because some of the kids do it in small groups, some do it one-on-one with me in the virtual space. But yeah, we actually still have quite a bit of couple of slots left during weekends and weeks. But yeah, they hop on codingwithculture.com.
Perfect. We'll put a link to that in the show notes so anybody who's interested, they don't have to live in Georgia, correct?
Right. And they can they schedule their classes at a time that's convenient for them. So we really try to make it very easy. And we know these kids are very talented and very busy and, doing multi sports and after school activities. So we really try to make it easy on the parents and the kids to, incorporate that computer science time in their, in their weekly schedules. Yeah. So, yep.
And then you have a new book coming out, right? Do we have a due
date? Yes. So actually working on a couple, some things that are going on. So we have, I'm excited about that. One that's a little bit more of like teacher memoir, but really excited about getting some of the Coding with Culture curriculum because a lot of it, as most creatives, lives in my head. As my mom often has to remind me, she's like, okay, well, Vic, it's great that you can do this, but at some point, you're going to want to be able to. So I really, one of my personal goals for 2023, even before the book thing kind of came up, was really saying, okay, let me start, because I feel like the more that other teachers can do it, and it doesn't necessarily require me to physically be in the space, then that allows, even more kids to be exposed to coding, more kids to be exposed to HBCUs. So I'm really, really excited. I think that if I had to choose one, I am excited to talk about myself, but I do really, because I think that is one of the things, and I know you guys are both creatives as well. So, it's very easy for our creativity to get stuck up here, and then, even as, something that really, really works in the classroom, that I may even want to replicate. So I look forward to kind of like, when your grandma makes that recipe book and, I'm kind of looking for that as well. Because my nephew is definitely, I know he, unlike me, when I went to that Clark classroom and turned around, he is very, very interested in computer science, which I, of course, absolutely love. But again, if he were to want to go and do the same thing, I would want there to be a way for him to be able to continue on, since that's something that we do share as, as uncle and nephew. So I think kind of building that tradition and having something for them to, continue on with too. So
fantastic. So we'll make sure we have all your contact information in the show notes, as well as X Factors publishing your book. I think that's what I read, right? So we'll make sure we connect people with that. And then if you were here and you listened to Victor and you connected with this story, share out your Doodle and Chat on Twitter using hashtag Doodle and Chat so we can share with everybody all the fun we had here tonight.
We did. This was a lot of fun. I have to say, this was absolutely, like, I love this. I feel like my friends are like, Victor, I was like, yes, everything's going to be a Doodle and Chat party.
That means so much to us, Victor. Thank you so much.
Yes, it was awesome meeting you guys. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much. And then join us back here next Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time when Mandi and I doodle and chat all about our January Doodle and Chat Classy one-pager. We'll see everybody next week.
Bye, guys.
Bye.